Part 3. One of the core criticisms of Halo 4 is that it doesn't feel much like a Halo game. A big reason is that its narrative doesn't always fit within the greater Halo storyline. It genuinely feels like 343 came up with a concept it liked, and then just shoved it into Halo's lore without considering whether things made sense in the context of the universe. You see, suspense of disbelief can both be shattered by gigantic flaws that are shoved into your face, and eroded by hundreds of smaller inconsistencies that wouldn't individually be story-breaking. Here are two small but painful examples of smaller inconsistencies that I want to highlight. Number 1. The UNSC Infinity, a vessel built just to challenge the square cube law. It's a pretty cool-looking warship in my opinion. I own a replica of it. It reminds me of an extra giant nuclear submarine. But let's look at what the story tells us about this ship. Cortana says that Infinity
was only in prototype when we left.
Do you remember when we left? I do. It was during the Battle of Earth and the last stand of humanity. Why would something like Infinity be a priority in this situation? If I were in charge of the UNSC's last defenses, I wouldn't be researching megaships to help myself with ego trips.
You've got Infinity, it's the biggest ship that has ever been launched.
I'd be, I don't know, making a bunch of these orbital guns that can put around
clean through a Covenant capital ship.
Or designing a new type of super explosive to try to decimate Covenant fleets. Or repurposing existing materials into building any kind of IED that would be useful in space combat. Kind of like what overmatched forces do in real life. Wouldn't designing prototypes of a ship that's so absurdly big it can carry other capital ships be a complete waste of precious resources during the final months of a genocidal war that has claimed billions of lives and incinerated nearly every human-controlled planet? We're supposed to believe that building this bottomless pit of wasted resources was a priority when humanity was on the brink of extinction? Number 2. Why is Master Chief suddenly in love with Cortana? Why does he get so heartbroken by her rampancy? No, really. We got to play as Noble 6 when he delivered Cortana to the Pillar of Autumn in the closing moments of The Fall of Reach, on August 30th, 2552. The Ark was destroyed on December 11th, 2552. That's less than 4 months of Chief and Cortana working together, or about 1% of Chief's active military career. That's right, Chief and other Spartan 2s have been operating in live combat missions since September 2525. So, unless the Spartan and AI relationship is actually supposed to represent the sudden sizzling spark of romantic infatuation, I don't buy Chief, who has been depicted as the prototypical alpha male in every Halo game so far, going from even-keeled super soldier to clingy emotional wreck when his AI starts to lose her mind.
Cortana, please.
Becoming an emotional wreck from a girl who wants me to commit to her is my job. Don't you dare take that from me. If you use a semester of college class as a reference point, this is the equivalent of noticing that there's a hot girl in your class 2/3 of the way through the class's final exam and professing your undying love for that girl in the hallway afterward. What an illogical move that would be. Speaking of illogical moves, Forerunner, the art of introducing a main villain when the campaign is already 1/3 done. We've arrived at the make-or-break moment of Halo 4's campaign, Forerunner. This was arguably the most important mission for 343 to build its new legacy and cement the trust of Halo's fanbase. Every good story has something called an inciting moment, which is a singular event that 1. Kicks off the action, 2. Forces the protagonist to try to solve a problem, and 3. Focuses and drives the future of the story. Stories that are heavily time-constrained, like a movie, TV episode, or video game story mode in particular, usually benefit by having this spark take place very early. The opening text of the original Star Wars had barely faded when the movie jumped into intense action that revealed the plot, showing the overmatched rebels losing to the Empire but clinging to a small glimmer of hope that would drive the remainder of the story. The original Halo didn't take long to thrust the player into action in the plot either. Only about 90 seconds, in fact.
And in about 90 seconds, they'll be all over us.
Oh God, they're trying to get through the door! Security! Intruders in the IO2, please!
Sam! Come on, we've got to get the hell out of here!
The interlinked campaigns of Halos 2 and 3 also thrust you into the storyline quickly, as a Covenant fleet immediately finds Earth and pierces the planet's defenses.
This is Fleet Admiral Harper. We are engaging the enemy.
This is bad. Real bad.
In the case of Halo 4, I'm not sure anything completely fits the definition of an inciting moment until the third mission. I mean, these scans back in Mission 1 spark a mystery, but end up not detecting you. The Covenant's appearance is surprising, but they never focus or drive the script, and they aren't even the primary villain. The Ancient Evil is. Even being pulled inside Requiem is a bit of a snoozer. Oh no, now you're trapped in a hollow planet instead of inside a disabled warship. This is why the first two missions in Halo 4 probably felt a bit off to you. Nothing much is happening, and the more time you spend traipsing along linear paths and pressing buttons, the more you notice nothing is happening. The more you notice, nothing is driving you forward. But finally, 3 missions in, the waves start to pick up. Strange new aliens materialize, and there's actually an injection of urgency, tension, and focus into the scene. You know, maybe 343 plans this all out.
Having 3 years to think about the story and plan it.
Most of the story is actually intact from really the sort of first drafts.
Maybe they wanted the campaign to have very cautious pacing and a mysterious start. All they'll need to make it work is a captivating third mission that reignites the desperation that Halo games are known for. Let's leap in and see how they did. Alright, the premise of Forerunner is that Chief and Cortana have been misled into thinking Infinity is inside the planet's core, where instead they are ambushed and resisted by waves of Prometheans, which are some kind of Forerunner defense AIs. Soon, Chief and Cortana realize Infinity is actually still completely outside the planet.
They're not inside at all. They're moving into orbit.
So they struggle to clear up radio interference and build a signal strong enough to broadcast to Infinity, to tell them,
Negative, Infinity! Do not enter the planet!
Wait, what? Can we rewind here?
Do not approach Forerunner planet.
Sorry, meant to rewind further.
We've got to disable that other beam before they're pulled in like we were. There's still too much interference to warn them. I'll keep trying to warn them.
No. Let's go back, to the last mission. Here we go.
Chief, we need to find a working ship so we can get off this planet. We should really get looking for a way off-world. The sooner the better. Chief, if you're serious about getting us home, we should start looking for where the Covenant have their ships.
Man, you know, it would be really hard to hijack a whole Covenant cruiser, what with its heavy weapons, patrol ships, and of course guards who'd be on board. Oh hey! You know what might be easier than planning to escape Requiem by hijacking a Covenant capital ship? Getting rescued by the human ship that's on its way toward you. Honestly, how did we go from
Chief, we need to find a working ship so we can get off this planet.
To
Negative, Infinity! Do not enter the planet!
in less time than it takes to bake a pizza? Hey Cortana, here's a working ship. Hey writers, you told us to search for a way off the mysterious Forerunner planet, and you told us that any ship would work. But then not this one? This is some of the most contrived urgency ever to be forced into the narrative of a blockbuster video game. And no, there's no reason to have expected Infinity to crash or anything like that. The Dawn crashed because it was, half a ship.
Not to worry, we are still flying half a ship.
But these Phantoms and these cruisers made it into the planet good as new. Infinity should have easily made it through the roof too then. The writers arbitrarily chose for it not to. Did no one at 343 notice that they took us from
If Infinity really is in the planet's core, then that terminus is all that's between us and home. What are you waiting for?
to
Negative, Infinity! Do not enter the planet!
make up your minds, 343. Do we want the ship to be in the core or not? We spent all of the last mission saying, hopefully Infinity is inside Requiem's core so that we can get to the ship and escape the planet. And now we're spending this mission saying, hopefully Infinity doesn't go inside Requiem because then the ship will be unable to escape the planet. These scenarios are mutually contradictory, but 343 adds nothing to the story to explain or even acknowledge this flip-flop. So, which of these two polar opposite scenarios are we hoping for? Just keep telling me. Just keep telling the player where to feel tension. Don't bother constructing a well-thought-out story. Certainly don't bother being consistent. If you could just tell my lazy teenage brain what to think at any given moment, that would be awesome. So after we suffer through a half hour of this illogical fake urgency, which happens to coincide with some of the most cold-blooded combat sections in the Halo franchise, we finally reach the plot twist that we've been building toward. Oh no, this isn't a radio tower, it's a prison, and we just opened the front gate. What have we done? This is the pivotal cutscene where we meet our main villain. He appears and discusses his hatred of humanity, takes control of an army, oh no, now 2 armies, and before he escapes, threatens Chief and then leaves Chief to die. There are a lot of ways 343 could have crafted this scene. Was this the right way?
No.
Let me make sure I'm understanding this. So the Didact is released from a prison after millions of years, and then he almost immediately returns to that prison. And then that prison becomes a ship. A ship that can fly around on a dime and scan for enemies. A ship that can withstand missiles and mat cannons. A ship that's the key to activating some kind of dreadnought. Who in their right mind would design a prison that can suddenly become a vessel of war? Actually, no. Who would spend 10 million years trapped in a prison and then immediately, voluntarily, go back inside? Also, it's heavily implied, and later confirmed, that the Didact manipulated Requiem's computer systems to trick Cortana into believing that Infinity was inside Requiem, and also tricked her into instructing Chief to activate all the switches and buttons necessary to release him in the correct order under the guise of somehow activating a communications tower to send a message to Infinity to warn the ship not to enter Requiem, which could only happen if the Didact also had some way of knowing from inside his prison that Infinity had entered the planet's orbit and that Chief and Cortana were on Requiem looking for some way to broadcast an urgent message to Infinity because his helmet's radio wasn't strong enough and they had suddenly decided that they for some reason didn't want Infinity to enter the planet even though the Didact had just lured them deeper into the planet by tricking them into believing that Infinity was already inside the planet by somehow knowing that a mission ago Chief and Cortana had wanted Infinity to be inside. For the love of God, what all is inside this prison that allows the Didact to pull so many strings? And what else is in there? The keys to the nuclear codes? A mini fridge full of limited edition Mountain Dew? A Walmart? And a Sam's Club? Why not at this point? Those things wouldn't be any crazier than everything else 343 gave him in there.
Nothing is being done sort of haphazardly.
As you can see, things are just arbitrarily happening with barely any logical connection to each other. If you pause for even a few seconds to think about what's going on in this mission, its rationale falls apart. And I'm not even done with this cutscene. So I, like all Halo players, was a bit confused when this happened. The Didact can use the Force and instantaneously dissolve matter without any clear method. Okay? This is the kind of thing you'd normally explain?
Midi-chlorians are a microscopic life form.
Ugh, not that kind of explanation.
If you haven't mastered even these primitives, then man has not attained the mantle.
So now this Shakespeare impersonator, Sith, Twilight character, Didact, has Chief in his grasp and is holding Chief over some kind of portal of death and raves about his bloodlust and desire to rule the galaxy and kill Chief, before casually tossing Chief back onto the platform and leaving. But why didn't Darth Didact just drop Chief straight down off the platform, instead of literally saving him by tossing him away from the portal of death?
This too is now yours.
The only reason is so that 343's story can continue. Even if the Didact doesn't see Chief as a threat, more like a pest, he would still kill him if he had any logic to his character. The problem underlying the Didact is simply that at no point in the story does he have any depth. He isn't a compelling villain. In other comparable situations in Halo, the villain didn't kill the captive because they had something to gain by keeping them alive. The Gravemind rescued and sent Chief and the Arbiter on missions with his own self-preservation in mind. Tartarus needed Miranda to activate Halo. This brute chieftain was trying to bait Chief and the Arbiter into a trap. Truth needed Johnson to activate the Ark. This Arbiter needed Professor Anders to release a Forerunner fleet. You, the player, thus think that maybe the Didact wanted to keep Chief alive for some unknown villainous reason. I mean, come on, we've all been in a situation where the villain beats you down but keeps you clinging to life as part of their plan. But in Halo 4, that never pans out. The Didact didn't have a reason to keep you alive, and we're slowly forced to realize that Halo 4's narrative has an effing main villain who's about as fearsome as...
What hubris.
Yeah, such a deep plot. Such gripping characters. At least 343 is somehow proud of this confusing web they've spun.
And story is something that we've taken more and more and more seriously.
Oh my god, I'm losing track of everything wrong with this mission. It's impressive how perfectly 343 managed to stack the layers of terribleness together. Now, Prometheans in Halo 4 were originally controlled by the Librarian, who's a good guy, right? Like, that's why Mr. Didact had to wave his hand and brainwash them back to his side?
Turning my own guardians against me.
That begs the question, why'd the Librarian have them trying to kill Master Chief? She didn't want Chief to accidentally release Darth Didact, right? Wouldn't the best way to have prevented that have been, you know, appearing and telling him not to? Sending waves of forces to kill Chief is completely illogical because it hints that the Prometheans are protecting something significant. We've seen this before in some of the logical Halos.
Resistance appears to be increasing. We must be close to the control center. The highest concentration of Covenant troops is directly below the carrier. I don't think they want you to get on board.
Above all, rather than warning us not to release the Didact, which it's established that the Librarian can do, she chose to unleash her army of knights in an attempt to kill us to stop us from releasing the Didact. Some friend you are. Why didn't you just tell us not to? Just shoot Chief a quick text or something. Use your words. Keep Chief in the loop. Why didn't you tell him? Seriously, why didn't you just tell him the plan? There's no reason for you not to, Holdo. Oh, sorry. I mean Librarian. Alright, so now that Darth Didact ran away, it's time to introduce his name. Wait, what?
That Didact, he manipulated Infinity's signal to get us to release him.
Wow, what a character intro. Cortana magically knows Didact's name instead of him saying, "Hi, I'm the Didact, nice to meet you." Where are his manners? Did the Didact sleep in during Business Etiquette 101? I guess he was college age millions of years ago. But I really do miss introductions that had some depth.
The message just repeats. Regret, regret, regret.
Any idea what it means?
Dear humanity, we regret being alien masters. We regret coming to Earth.
And we most definitely regret the Corps just blew up our raggedy-ass fleet! Hoorah!
Regret is a name, Sergeant. The name of one of the Covenant's religious leaders, a prophet. He's on that carrier, and he's calling for help.
That Didact, he manipulated Infinity's signal to get us to release him.
And wow, these dozens of ghosts sitting right here are convenient for your escape. Better take advantage. Oh no. Oh no. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh good, we lived. The runaway success of the last cutscene really has me on the edge of my seat for this one.
Captain of the UNSC Infinity. Unknown entity has seized control of our ship. We're without power.
If you're without power, would your engines be lit up? They aren't when Blur Studios is in charge of the visuals. I don't know, maybe they could be lit up. But I'm guessing for the next mission, we're gonna go to your eventual crash site. Thank goodness that won't be far away.
Marking. Impact predicted 77.8 kilometers due north.
What? By 77.8 kilometers, I assume Cortana means 77.8 kilometers. As in nearly 50 miles? As in the height of Lake Ontario at its furthest point? As in more than 13 times the length of Infinity? I mean, does Infinity look like it's about to crash 13 times its own length away from you? We can see the angle of Infinity's descent and see about where it'll crash. Oh god, now the jail cell ship is back with a vengeance. Can we talk about that for a while? Like, 343's most imposing idea for a ship for the main villain is a sphere?
You know where he's heading.
Yup, toward the city-sized warship that completely disappeared in the last 19 seconds. But seriously, I want some audience feedback on this one. Do you think the Didact ship looks more like a tennis ball or a basketball? Please email your vote to "It doesn't matter either way, this mission is terrible" at gmail.com. Also accepting write-in candidates. I have it on good authority that a sphere is one of the least threatening of the geometric shapes.
He's a ball. He's capable of rolling and maybe bouncing.
Just imagine how threatening it would be if the Didact ship had been a dodecahedron. Oh. Finally, we're released from this mission. This hopeless cage of a mission. You know that feeling after you've been trapped in a bad situation and then you escape and you swallow that first breath of fresh air? You know, the type that's so glorious you know you'll never want to go back. Oh wait, no.